Good afternoon. Welcome to Chem 103. I'm Dr. Leah Hefner, and I'll be walking you through your Chem 103 journey this semester. 2 o'clock is a pretty good time. You probably have the time to get the cobwebs out, have a meal of some kind, get your brain going, hopefully. And today, we're going to cover the syllabus, so we're going to pull out the relevant points that I want everybody to be aware of, and then we're going to get right into the material. Hopefully you watch the video on YouTube for the prerequisite science skills, because we're going to do some practice problems and address a couple of problem areas that students typically have. Before we do the syllabus, I'll let you know who I am. Just this random voice in the sky? No. So I said my name is Aaliyah Hefner. I hail from the great state of New Jersey, who is certainly struggling right now in this pandemic with all those people in one tiny little place. From there, I went to Pennsylvania to this little private college, and I majored in biochemistry. Then I moved to the University of Michigan, in Michigan, of course, go blue, and got my PhD in biochemistry. The colors for U of M are ironically kind of the same as A&T, so I like to think that it was fate that I ended up here for y'all. Then I moved down here to North Carolina, originally for a postdoc position at UNC Chapel Hill. Did that for a while, and then had my second son, because I'm a family woman. I got 3 little ones, 4th one on the way. And then I said, I'm going to be a mom for a while. So I did that, and then I started working at A&T in the chemistry department. So here I am for you. I'm a person just like you. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I got stuff outside of the classroom, and that certainly affects how I perform in the classroom, just like you. Like I said, I've got number 4 on the way, due in November, around Thanksgiving. So don't worry, you're not going to have a change in the middle of the semester or anything like that. But if my brain is a little bit batty, if I'm a little bit forgetful, like, just give me some grace, okay? Especially on Tuesday afternoon, because I literally teach a class right before this one, and I have 30 minutes to maybe throw some food down my throat, get some water, and then get ready for your class. So hopefully that'll go a little bit smoother next week. So that's me. I'm kind of like that crazy auntie that everybody loves. It's like, oh, she's a little bit crazy, but it's okay. So hopefully that's what you'll feel like by the end of the semester. So the first part, like I promised, we're going to talk about the syllabus. Some key information. How many of you, by show of hands, this is your first college chemistry course? Okay. So definitely a few. If your last chemistry experience was awful, or if it was in high school, this is very different. It's a fast pace, and it's very time consuming in terms of the work. So treat the class with respect. It's a 3-credit course for a reason. That means that you need to spend a decent amount of time taking your notes, doing homework, practice problems, all that sort of stuff. It's very, very different from high school. High school, you have the whole year probably to cover the same amount of material that we're covering in 13 weeks with 1 meeting a week. So just to put that into perspective for you, it's a lot. Not even gonna lie, it's a lot. It's a lot even for me, because I have to be on the ball with getting all the lectures ready, all the exams and stuff. Everything has to be ready ahead of time so that things flow smoothly. So y'all ain't gonna be the only one struggling. It's me too. So treat it with respect. Chemistry is time consuming, and we can talk about some study tips if you want. If you have that as a question, you can throw that up in the chat, or you can just raise your hand and I'll address you, and then you can say your question. Okay? Required materials. Is there a question? Because I hear somebody in the background. Okay. If you're in a busy place, then you might want to mute your mic unless you have a question. Otherwise, we're gonna be all up in your business. Because if you trying to catch up and watch Scandal, even though it ended like a few years ago, while you in class, don't ruin it for me. I love Kerry Washington. I haven't finished it. I've stayed away for so long. Don't ruin it for me. Think of the children, okay? All right. Required materials. Absolutely prioritize getting the Mastering Chemistry subscription. You can go to the bookstore and get the access code and the textbook as a bundle. You can go to Blackboard and click on the Mastering Chemistry link on the side and then sign up for an account through Pearson and then purchase a subscription through there. And there's more options. Word on the street is that it's cheaper to go that route than to go to the bookstore. So if you're trying to save a few dollars, do it that way. And you can also purchase online access to the book versus renting the book or buying the textbook outright. So check that out. If you haven't already purchased the access code, check out the Mastering Chemistry site and see what they offer and see if that fits your budget better. You absolutely need to get it because it's a large portion of your grade. So that's why I'm pushing it so hard. Get that before you get the textbook if you have to make a choice. The next thing that you need is a scientific calculator. Doesn't have to be a graphing calculator because that makes it more expensive. A scientific calculator you can get for about 20 to 30 bucks. Walmart, Amazon, Target, any of those places. So you need the Mastering Chemistry and the scientific calculator. Without those, you will not do well in the course. Then, if you plan on taking more chemistry, if it's simply interesting to you, you think it'll be a good resource, etc., then you can buy the book. And that's Introductory Chemistry by Corwin. It's the 8th edition. If you learn better by having the textbook, having something physical to turn the pages, take notes, and that kind of thing, absolutely go for it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you don't buy it, you're going to fail. That's not true. I try to structure the course and give you the information that you need so that if money is funny, which it is for everybody right now, you won't fail just because you didn't have the resources. If you put in the time and the effort and you communicate with me, you can do well in the class. So are we clear on that? Time commitment, big. Required materials, order of priority. Let me know in the chat. You can say I'm good, or you can post a question, or you can say a question. So communicate with me. We good so far? Okay, so that we don't have the, all right. So let me know you're good. I have a question, potentially two questions. So y'all decide amongst yourselves who's going to go first. Okay, Patrick has raised his hand. So go ahead. Yes. Yep, you're good. You don't have to, but it's not a bad thing if you do, because then you can reference it while you're doing your homework. You're welcome. Was there another question? Yes, go ahead. It's a little bit difficult to hear you right now because it sounds maybe like a little bit noisy, but it sounds like you're asking whether or not the information that I'm giving you is going to be enough to get through the course. The answer to that question is yes. Between the YouTube videos on the chapters and the live sessions where we do practice problems together, that should be enough information for you to be able to do the homework. the quizzes, and everything, and do well on the exams. If that wasn't the question, then try it one more again. Okay, excellent. All right, so it looks like most other people are good. So we'll move on with this slide. Oh, another hand. Yes. So it's going to be, you're going to have to use the lockdown browser and monitor. We're going to talk about exams a little bit this time, and we're going to talk more about it next time. But it will be online. You'll have a 3-day period to take a 1 hour exam. So exams will always be offered Wednesday through Friday of whatever week. And you choose the time that works best for you. You take your exam. If you miss it, you miss it. But 3 days is a long time. So hopefully you can find an hour in that time to do the exam. But it will all be online. I'm not going on campus. I'm pregnant. I ain't trying to catch nothing. Okay? So all my classes this semester are distance learning. So you will not see my face. But everything will be online. Okay? Alrighty. Yes, ma'am. And welcome back. Hello. Hey, how you doing? So, I haven't set office hours in stone yet. I'm going to poll each of my classes to see when is good for them. And that's going to be part of I'm going to post a little practice exam for everyone to test their computer setup and see if they can use the responders lockdown and monitor. So, in that, you're going to answer questions about you so I can get to know you. And you're going to tell me when is best out of the time that I have available in my schedule to do office hours. So there will be set office hours, but as usual, you can always hit me up and make an appointment if those office hours don't work for you. So I will be available. Just depends on what y'all say. Great. Okie dokie. Other questions? Because most everybody else said they're good. All right. There will be plenty of time for you to ask. If I haven't said it enough, I'm going to say it again. This course moves swiftly. It is very fast. So if you miss 1 week because of life, that's a lot that you've missed. Because each week you have a lecture to review, you've got homework to do, you may have a quiz, the chapter check in. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do outside of this class time that you're responsible for being motivated enough to get it all done. And then on the topic of the chapter check-ins, those assignments are meant for you to really try like right after you watch the lecture or maybe the day after or something like that. And it shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to do. So the more complex the topics are, the fewer questions there will be. And you'll see by the end of the course, there may literally be 1 to 2 questions as the chapter check-in because they're more involved. I will use those as attendance. So if you do not complete the chapter check-in assignment and submit it on Blackboard, I can't mark you present for that week. I'm giving you the flexibility of showing up for the live lecture or not. That's on you. But show me that you're staying up with the material because that's more important than just logging on the Blackboard and then watching Dave Chappelle's comedy special. Like that's not attendance. That's not participating. I would like to do that, but I can't. So show me that you are participating in the class by doing the chapter check-ins and uploading those every week. Mastering chemistry and everything else, those things are very important too. But this will be your attendance so that your financial aid, when I have to do the has this person come to class, I can say yes because you participated. So are we clear on how attendance is going to go in this class? Excellent. Excellent, excellent. So it is up to y'all. I don't mind teaching a class of one. Well, okay, I kind of do. It's a lot. But if for some reason you can't make the live lecture, your work got you rescheduled, you got to pick up Sissy and them from somewhere, I get it. Life happens. Just as long as you stay caught up, you're good in my book. All right. More information. So grades. Everybody cares about grades. There's going to be 4 1-hour exams. So each of those exams is 10% each. You're going to have the 3-day window, like I said, to take the exam, and it's going to be using the lockdown browser and monitor. If you can't get through that practice exam, then you'll have plenty of time to find another computer to use. If you can't use a Chromebook and you can't use an iPad, those two things are incompatible with Respondus. So find a family member, a friend, or somebody that will let you use their computer because you need the camera and you need the microphone to work. Then there's the mastering chemistry assignments and the chapter check-ins. That's another 40% of your grade. On mastering chemistry, you're going to see longer homework assignments that may take 1 to 2 hours. And there's going to be quizzes through mastering chemistry, which you do not have to use the Respondus lockdown monitor for that. Just do it, okay? And then the chapter check-ins, like we just discussed. So that's 40% of your grade. Pure homework and quizzes. The final exam, which is cumulative, I'm going to write that word because I have a pen in my hand and I just want to use it. It's cumulative. So everything that we cover from today to the end of the course is going to show up on the final exam. However, the chapters at the end of the course that we don't have a specific exam for will be represented a little bit more heavily. So that will be chapters 9 and 10. As we get closer, you'll get more information on that. But just to let you know, you have to know everything. Yes. Question. Is there a question? So it can be any computer. It doesn't have. It can be Mac. It can be a PC. Doesn't have to be. It can be a laptop or a desktop, as long as you have a camera and a microphone that works. The only ones that we know for sure do not work is a Chromebook and an iPad. I don't know about any kind of Samsung tablet or anything like that. You can try it. I don't know if those will work. But as long as your camera is functioning, your microphone is functioning, and your internet connection is good, you should be good to go. You're welcome. Yes. No. Nope. You just do it. So, and that's good. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll talk about it again with the chapter check-ins and stuff anyway, but with mastering chemistry, you just log on whenever you want. You do it. As long as it's done by the due date, you're good. Chapter check-ins are through Blackboard. So the assignments are posted on Blackboard and you have to submit the assignment. So there's an option to save as a draft and there's the option to submit. You need to submit or else I won't see it. If you don't get notification from Blackboard saying that your assignment has been submitted, it hasn't been. If I don't see it, I can't grade it. So that with the chapter check-ins, you have to make sure that it has actually been submitted to Blackboard. Mastering chemistry, it's easy. You just go in and do the work, and that's it. Other questions? All right. So, if you need at least a C in this course because you have to take Chem 106 afterwards, you need to earn at least a 69, and that will get you a C minus. If you're just trying to get by, just trying to pass, then you need to earn at least a 55. And these grading allocations have been kind of shuffled a little bit to reflect the fact that it's a distance learning class, and sometimes that's a little bit more difficult for students. So if you need just at least a D to pass the class and fulfill a gen ed requirement, you just need to get a 55. If you need at least a C to move on in the chemistry series or for your major, you need to get at least a 69. So I just want to put that out there right away. Those are the bars. Try to reach them, okay? And we're going to talk about the class flow a little bit. We hinted at it, but I want to just give it to you straight up. So each week, you're going to have a lecture to watch and take notes. You did that hopefully before today for the prerequisite science skills. Maybe you attempted the participation assignment. You may have maybe looked at mastering chemistry. Fine. Then we have the live lecture like today. Ask questions. I have practice problems for us to do together. You'll have a chance to do them, get feedback, that kind of thing. Then you're going to complete the rest of your assignments before they're due, which all assignments outside of the exams, so we're talking homework, chapter check-ins, that kind of thing, all that stuff is always due on Sunday. So Sunday, before midnight, you should be completing your mastering chemistry, and you should have your chapter check-in submitted for the week. So Sunday the 30th, those two things need to happen for the prerequisite science skills. On top of that, you're going to be starting the flow again. You're going to be watching the lecture for chapter 2 at some point this week to be ready for next Tuesday. So the video for chapter 2 is going to drop tomorrow. The homework in mastering chemistry and the chapter check-in will be available tomorrow. So you can work ahead if you so choose. So I'm trying to build in as much flexibility here as possible, even making it so that you don't technically have to come to class to be counted as present. So work with me, all right? Any questions about the class flow and kind of what you need to be doing each week? If you're good, you can tell me you're good or give me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm speaking for the whole class? Okay. Excellent. Okay. And you don't have to, you can write it in the chat too, or, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. All right. So we're going to go over a few key Blackboard features. So this is a side menu that you would see, something like this. Faculty information, that's me. My email address, my name. The syllabus is posted. It's a PDF. And if some major change happens to the course, then I will post a revised syllabus and let you know, and I'll address it in class too. So I'm not just going to make changes and be like, ha ha ha. No, that's not what I'm about. So if there are major changes to the course, it will be documented in the syllabus, and I will also talk to you about it so you won't be left in the dark and you'll know what you need to do. The course content is what I call the meat, okay? You go to the cookout, everybody's looking for the ribs, all right? These are the ribs, as long as it's the right person cooking them. Each chapter that we cover is going to have a folder on its own. So there's a prerequisite science skills folder. The link for the lecture on YouTube is there. The assignment that you need to do for the chapter check-in is there. After this session, there's going to be another folder inside of the folder labeled Live Lecture. And that's going to contain the link to the YouTube video for this, because I'm recording it, and it's going to have the annotated PDF just like the other video. So all the practice problems that we do, all the questions that you have are going to be captured, and you can go back and look at something. If you just need to look at the notes for how a problem is solved, you can look at the PDF. If you need to hear an explanation, you can do that too. So all of that will be up there by chapter. There's also additional practice problems, which are not going to be graded. I will pull from them for examples to do from class sometimes, but they're just there for you to use. I'll also post things for exam 1 as we get closer, exam review, that kind of thing. So course content is where you're going to be going for the majority of the things you need for this course. Then there's the quizzes, tests, and exams. All of your exams will be posted here. They'll be available during the window that's specified in the syllabus, and then you just click on that link for exams. You click on exam 1, let's say, and you start the exam. I'm hearing like an echo of myself. If somebody has their microphone on, maybe mute it for a second unless you have a question. That's a little bit distracting. I already have kids that are distracting. I don't need no more. Okay. Then there's the Mastering Chemistry link. This is where you have to click here to enter your access code if you bought one from the bookstore, or to just create a profile. If you have not purchased an access code yet, it's okay. You can sign up and get 2 weeks for free. So you can be caught up with your homework, get your money together, and then purchase the subscription without having to backtrack or ask for an extension on homework. So don't worry about that if you haven't purchased it already. But you have to go through Mastering Chemistry to do all of your assignments. You're not going to see the link for Mastering Chemistry in each content folder because I can't put links for all of the assignments like that. So that's the only thing you'll have to do to make sure you do the Mastering Chemistry. Yes, I see your hand raised. What's your question? Maybe you have a question. Well, if you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to keep on trucking to get through this. Yes. No. So you don't see that yet because there isn't anything posted yet. But once there is an exam, the practice exam is posted, you'll see it. But Mastering Chemistry is only for the quizzes. Okay. So we're in the communication section. We're almost done with this part. Announcements. That's my primary communication with you. So I'm going to write primary comms. I'll send that out so I can reach the whole class. Sometimes there will be a link involved, so you have to go into Blackboard or the Blackboard app to be able to access whatever link to the material that I posted. But I'll use it to notify you, like today. We're going to start a few minutes late because the sister's hungry. I need to at least get my lunch together. It's just sitting there staring at me. I'm coming for you soon. We're going to have a break soon. Other ways to communicate with me. Course messages. This is for kind of individual communication. We are supposed to use this in place of email. It will probably help me stay more organized because unfortunately sometimes I get emails, I'm in your class, I don't understand this. And I don't know what class that is because I teach multiple classes. So if you message me through Blackboard, I automatically know what class you're in and I can give you the help you need versus exchanging 3 emails over 3 days to figure out who you are and what you need. So with that said, and then Collaborate Ultra. That's how we're going to meet for class. That's also likely how I'm going to do office hours. But Zoom is also a possibility sometimes as well. It just depends on which one is active, right? For the course messages, since we haven't used that, most people are used to emailing. Just wanted to show you what that looks like a little bit. I didn't want to show everything because I ain't trying to put all my business out there. But if you click on course messages, you'll see that you have an inbox and you have a sent box, just like any other email. You can click on create message and then it will show you, you can choose from all the different people in the class who you want to send a message to. If you want to message me, you should click on my name. You should know my name so you can click on it. Aaliyah Hefner, that's me. So if you need something, send me a course message. I check Blackboard all the time. I'm on Blackboard all the time because I'm uploading stuff and grading and all of that. So try that. If you send me an email, I may not turn you away, but if it gets lost in the shuffle because I get a lot of emails, try the course messages because there's no other clutter. I think that's it for this section. So are there any other questions about the syllabus, about how the class is going to flow, what's expected of you? This would be a good time to ask it. If not, you can let me know that you're good and we can take a quick break. So break or question. You can just say break or give me a thumbs up, or you can ask a question in the chat. Okay, so it's looking like we're good. We'll take a short break because it's 2:46 right now. Let's take a 10-minute break. So I have 2:46. We'll break till 2:56. And I'll do a 2-minute warning. So I'll come on and be like, hey, 2 minutes, y'all. And then we'll get started. All right? So go ahead. I'm finna eat my lunch, so this is going to be great. I'll see y'all in 10 minutes. Alrighty. It is 2:56 according to my computer. So break time is over. No fun, no games. Now, so we're going to start with the material that was covered previously via YouTube, the prerequisite science skills. So before we start that, was everyone good with accessing that through, clicking on the link in Blackboard? Let me know if that's a good way to do it. I want to make sure everybody has access. Yeah, I figure everybody got YouTube. Watch it on your phone. Okay. Good. If there's ever an issue with the video, just let me know. We'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with measurements versus exact numbers. Measurements, you need some kind of an instrument to take a measurement. You need a ruler, you need a graduated cylinder, you need a scale. You're measuring something, so you need an instrument. With an exact number, it's pretty much something that you can count. Which one of these two, measurements or exact numbers, do we care about significant figures? Is it measurements or exact numbers? You can write M or E. Which one do we care about significant figures? Right. Hey, Talia, I see you, girl. I'm glad you're able to get in this class. Shout out. YouTube famous now. Okay. So, measurements, we need sig figs, which I'll abbreviate SF. Okay. Measurements, we always care about sig figs. So I have four numbers here for you. What I want you to do is tell me whether or not it's a measurement or an exact number. And if it's a measurement, how many sig figs does it have? So take a second, do it in your notebook or on a scratch piece of paper, whatever you're working with, and then we'll go through one by one, and I'll have you put your answer in the chat for each one, and I'll put the answers up as we go through them. So I'll give you a minute or two. Tell me, is it a measurement or an exact number? And if it's a measurement, how many significant figures does it have? Let's share the answer for the first one. 80.5 centimeters squared. Measurement or exact number? You can just put M or E. Yeah, it's a measurement. How many significant figures does it have? Excellent. So it's a measurement, and there are three significant figures. So centimeters squared, that definitely looks like something that's measured. And we're counting from the first non-zero digit. So we're starting with this 8, and we're counting all three, 1, 2, 3 digits. All of them are significant. What about the second one? Is it a measurement or an exact number? Yep, it's an exact number. So that means we don't care about significant figures. You can count the number of drops of something that you drop from a dropper. That's not a measurement. That's an exact number. Do y'all need more time, or did we do all four of them? Can we keep going? You can give me the answer for the third one. Measurement, and then you can just put M or E, and then a number for the significant figures if you think it's a measurement. All right. Y'all are on it. Okay. And everybody's saying 2. That's excellent. So it's a measurement, and it has two significant figures. This 0 at the end is a placeholder. That's why we're not counting it. If you didn't have the 0, it would just be 56. So you have to put the 0 there in order for it to be 560. What about this last one? Measurement or exact number, and how many sig figs? I see we have a question. Yes. Well, I was going to go over that once we did the last one because there's a zero at the end in this one too. So hold on to that, and I'm going to answer that and give you a good way to remember it. So we all agree this is a measurement, okay? This is a measurement. So mg, that's milligrams. That's a mass. But the number of significant figures, it would be 4 if this were a placeholder 0. But this is actually measured. And we know that because of the decimal place. If we can get rid of this 0 at the end and it would still be the same number, then you know that you're dealing with a 0 that's measured at the end. So there are actually 5 sig figs here. Does everybody understand that? So with this last one, there's a 0 at the end. It's measured. This is what we called the uncertain digit. It's the last one in a significant figure. So there are 5 there. If everyone can, it sounds like people can still hear me, but if you can hear me, raise your hand because I see one person can't. Okay. All right. Because sometimes you just don't know. With the internet and Blackboard, it's just the wild, wild west out here. So if there's a decimal, then that 0 at the end is going to count as a significant figure. So if we were going to take that 560 and throw a decimal place at the end, it would have 3 significant figures. Is there a question? Oh no, I think people still have their hand raised. You can lower your hands if you're done, if you don't have a question. And if you do have a question, you can go ahead and ask it. Alrighty. So that's measurements, exact numbers, and counting the number of significant figures in a measurement. Those placeholder zeros can trick you, so take your time when you're counting. Now you may not be able to see this super well, but there's a purple line with a ruler, and I want you to use the ruler to report the length of the line using the correct number of significant figures. If you can't tell, if it's a little too blurry on your screen, then tell me how many significant figures the length should have based on the ruler. If there's a question, you can go right ahead. Okay, 4 or 5. Yeah. So with you see how with 94.60, oops, shouldn't be a decimal point there, 94.360 versus 94.36. Those are the same number. If I take away that 0, it doesn't change the number. It doesn't mean that you don't have 94.36 anymore. With that decimal place, you can say that. If, however, I had 94,360 versus 9,436, that 0 absolutely makes a difference. So if there's a decimal point and there's a 0 at the end, that means that 0 doesn't have to be there for the number to be the same. So it's going to be a measured 0, and it's not a placeholder. It's actually measured. Does that make more sense? So if it's before, let's use our 560 example. This would be 3 sig figs just because of the decimal point. It's saying I've measured all 3 of these. The other way to do that, which you will see more commonly, is to use scientific notation, which we haven't gotten to yet, um, to signify that all 3 of these digits are significant. And that would be the way that you're going to see it in your homework, and that's the way that you're going to be encouraged to write it. The only time that a 0 is a placeholder before is if you see something like this 0 is a placeholder as well. You can get rid of it and it's still the same thing. But we can do more about placeholder zeros individually if that's still something that's kind of a little bit of a question mark for you. If everybody has question marks, then we can go over and take a little bit more time. But I don't want to take up all the time for one person when I can probably see exactly what it is that you need one-on-one much faster. Is that fair? Okay. I see another hand up. Do we have another question? Okay. Well, alrighty. Now we're going to go back to the ruler. Try to give me an estimate of the length with the correct number of significant figures. So if you can't look at it and see it on your screen very well, you should be at least be able to tell me how many significant figures there should be in your answer. So take a second and do that and put your answer in the chat. Okay, we got one answer. Okay. So first we'll tackle the sig figs question. Yes, is there a question? Okay. So for this we have centimeters, which is the big numbers here, and then we've got all these little tick marks, which are the millimeters. So that tells me that I can tell you with good precision a number point something centimeters. But we said that there should also be an uncertain digit. So those two, the ones and the tenths place, you can tell by looking at the ruler. And then you have an uncertain digit that you guesstimate, okay? So you should have 3 sig figs for this. And if you can see it on your screen, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 7.3 something. So I take 7.30 to like 7.39 centimeters. But you should have 7.3 something as the answer. So you need to go one beyond what's already marked on the ruler. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, that's okay. You can just say help. So if you have a question, go for it. Yes. Yes. So if this ruler didn't have the millimeters, it just had the big tick marks like this, then your answer would have two significant figures like that. All right. So we're not going to have this kind of a thing on an exam per se, where you have to give me, read a ruler, but you should be able to tell me how many significant figures you can record from a ruler or a graduated cylinder or something like that. You should understand the concept of how many sig figs you can get. Because I know everybody's resolution ain't the same, all that stuff. Maybe eyes ain't good. I don't know. I'm not going to hold you accountable for that. I wear glasses, so I ain't trying to put somebody out there. Okay. Okay. So that's the placeholder zeros, counting significant figures. Now we have to take measurements and do math and figure out how many sig figs we should have after doing the math. So we're going to do a quick review of addition and subtraction, which I just have an addition problem here. And then if you want to do more, we can do another one. Then we'll do multiplication and division and see where everybody is. Okay, so I've got 153.26 centimeters. We're adding 24.5 centimeters. First question that I have for you. Tell me how many significant figures are in each measurement. So you can just say top, and then how many sig figs, bottom, how many sig figs. Oh, I'm sorry, there was another question that somebody had. Where did the 9 come from? I can address that at the end of class. I'm sorry, I did not see your question. Okay, cool. So yeah, the top one has 5 sig figs, the bottom one has 3. So we're good there. But the rules for addition and subtraction, we don't care about how many sig figs there are in each. What we care about is which place value we have out to. So here in this top number, we have the tenths place and the hundredths place. And the bottom number, we've only got the tenths place. So we can only be certain that we can trust our measurement as far as the least certain measurement. Okay, since 24.5 it's only got the one decimal place after, we can only go that far. What I like to do to remind myself of where I have to round is to draw a little dotted line. So do the math, add these two things together. I'll add it together slowly by hand. And then we'll talk about rounding and how we get to the final answer with the correct number of sig figs. So you can put your answer in the chat with what you think the final answer is, and then we'll go over it. So that's the calculator answer, right? It's going to tell you that 177.76. But what are we reporting with sig figs? So this is what I'll call the calculator answer. With sig figs, we have to take into account that we can only report up to the tenths place. So we're going to round that 7. Now y'all are getting it. So when you report it, You're going to round that 7 up to an 8. And with sig figs, your answer is 177.8 centimeters. Don't forget your units. Be a little bit forgiving in the beginning, at least for this particular chapter. But units are everything. You can't add unicorns and oranges together. If you don't know that you have unicorns and oranges, then you're going to just kind of mix everything together. But you can't add those two. So make sure that your units are clear. In this case, the full answer is 177.8 centimeters. Question. Yes. With addition and subtraction, you care about how many decimal places you have, not how many significant figures you have. And I draw the dotted line so that it reminds me where I need to round. So everything to the left of the line, I'm going to keep. The digit that is directly to the right of the line, I'm going to use to round my answer. And that's how I keep it straight for myself. Is there another question? I saw her hand and then it disappeared. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's say that we did it and we got 177.72 centimeters. So that's what it came out to. Then your rounded answer would be 177.7 centimeters. You just keep it the same and drop everything else off. Good question. Do you guys want to do another one of these, or do you want to move on to multiplication and division? Okay. See, now last class, I do, so I teach multiple sections of this course. And the last class wanted to do more practice, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be prepared this time. So I'm going to have blank slides for extra problems. And do we need them? No, it's fine. It's just how life works, right? Better to be prepared than not. All right, so let's review multiplication and division with sig figs. I'm going to first ask you for this top question, how many significant figures do we have in each of these measurements? So I'll agree that there's 2 in the first one. But remember those placeholder zeros. There's only one significant figure in 50. Okay? Yeah. With multiplication and division, we absolutely care about the number of significant figures in each measurement. The measurement that has the fewest significant figures is going to govern how many significant figures our answer has. And since we've only got one significant figure in the 50, our answer can only have one significant figure. So go ahead and do that math and tell me what your calculator answer is. And if you want to take a stab at how you're going to report it with one significant figure. what does your calculator say? We can start there. 23 times 50. Yeah. So your calculator is going to tell you just a number. Doesn't tell you units or anything. Ah, I see somebody got it. When we have to round, we can only have one significant figure. So that means the first non-zero digit is the one that we're going to round. That means this first one is what we're going to have to use to report. And we're going to look at the digit next to it. So I'm going to underline that. So we're going to use this digit next to it to round. That means that we're reporting this number as 1,000. Okay. That's the digit next to it is less than 5. So we just get rid of it, right? But we can't just put 1. It's 1,000. So to have one significant figure, we have the 1 followed by 3 zeros, and that gives you one significant figure. Now, we have to address units. We multiplied here, so that means that when we do the multiplication, we're multiplying our units too. The unit should be feet squared. So just like if you were to do 8 times 8 is equal to 8 squared, feet times feet is feet squared. You're going to have to do some of that unit analysis for multiplying and dividing in your mastering chemistry homework. So I wanted to pull that up and give you examples now in class so that we can talk about it and do some other examples if you need it. So does that make sense for, yeah, Talia, go ahead. What's your question? Okay, so the calculator told you 1,150. What we said is that we could only have one significant figure in our answer. So you have to look at the first non-zero digit in your answer, which is the 1, and then you look at the digit to the right of it and you round. Since it's less than 5, all of these other numbers turn to 0 because it's 1,000, not just 1, so you can't just write 1. So you report the number as 1,000. Does that make sense? Yeah, we can do more examples. So we'll do the second one, and then if y'all want more practice, we'll do some more practice. And if everybody else is ready to move on, that I can help you, and we can even just do it right after class if you don't have a class, where we do like one more or two more examples to make sure that you got it. Cool? Okay, good. Alrighty. So with the units, again, we're multiplying the units just like we are the numbers. So feet times feet is going to give you feet squared. If I had feet times seconds, then your units would be feet times seconds. So it's literally multiplying like you do the numbers. So let's try this second one. 75 centimeters cubed divided by 5 centimeters. This is division. It's still the same rules with sig figs, but the units, I want to make sure that we understand how to do the units. So you can give me the calculator answer, and if you want to take a stab at the units, go ahead. So I see a couple of people got the answer that I got. If you just do the calculator stuff, 75 divided by 5, you should get 15. All right. So your calculator answer is going to tell you 15. But with sig figs, 75 has 2 sig figs. 5 only has 1 sig fig. So we have to round. Yep. We've got this 1 that we have to round. We're looking at the 5. It's 5 or greater. That means that we're rounding that 1 up to a 2. And we're calling it 20. Is everybody with me on that? How we took the calculator answer of 15, which has 2 sig figs, and then we round it to get 1. Okay. To me, this is the most complicated type of rounding because 15 and 20, if somebody owes you $20 and they give you 15, you're going to be like, so you got my other 5 when your paycheck comes? Like, those two numbers are not equal. But when we're talking about sig figs and we're rounding, 15 can become 20. And that sounds strange. Now, if that was a paycheck increase, I'll take it. But you got to remember that when you're rounding, it may look a little strange. And when it comes to the units, I saw some people had it. It's centimeters squared. So when you have similar units, in this case, everything is in centimeters. When you have exponents, which you're assuming this centimeters is like centimeters to the 1, you subtract. So your units are going to be, if you have this, which is what we did, is really like saying centimeters, and then for your exponent, you're doing 3 minus 1, which gives you centimeters squared. That's knowing how to manipulate exponents, and that's a math thing that if you didn't have it in high school, you don't remember it in high school. If you need help with that kind of math, let me know. You don't have to do it publicly in front of everybody. You can just send me a message, or you can wait till after class. But that's how you get it. Yes, so there's a question. Since there's only 1 sig fig, would the answer still be wrong if you just write 2? Yes, because 2 and 20 are not the same. So in this case, where you have to round up, you round the 1 up to a 2, and the number next to it becomes a 0. Just like in the first example, you kept the 1 the same, and everything else becomes a 0. Those zeros are placeholders. You need them. 2 is not the same as 20. So it would be wrong if you just put 2. Other questions on that? Would you like to do some more practice with unit analysis, or let me know if you want to move on? No problem. Okay. So we have some people voting for more practice. And since I see more than one person, we're going to do that. We're going to do one more. So we'll do a multiplication and a division. No, that's an S for seconds. So 0.98 seconds is on the bottom. I'll try to rewrite that and make it a little bit clearer. Still kind of looks like a 5. I tried. It's 18 liters divided by 0.98 seconds. I'll just write out seconds. As you finish up, you can give me your answers in the chat. Mhm. All right, so we'll start with the first one. Multiplication and division, we care about how many sig figs there are. Each of these measurements has 2 sig figs. So our answer has to have 2 sig figs as well. Your calculator is going to tell you 18.3675. We don't need all those digits. With sig figs, we only need 2. So that means that we need to round this 8. It's either going to stay the same or we're going to round it up. We look at the number next to it, it's a 3. So we're just going to keep the 8 the same and drop everything else. So that's the number answer, 18. Then we need to look at the units. We're dividing liters by seconds. Those are not the same. So we can't do any canceling out like we did before. You're going to put liters divided by seconds as your units. It seems like a lot of you got the units. For the second one, we're looking at 3 sig figs. So remember, there's a decimal and then there's the 0. So this is a measured 0. We count it with our sig figs. When you do the math, your calculator is going to tell you 950.4. With sig figs, we only need to have 3 sig figs. I see there's a hand raised. Question? Oh, use your calculator. Use your calculator. It's fine. You're welcome. For sig figs, we need 3. So that means you're going to either need to keep your decimal there to show 3 sig figs, or you're going to have to write it in scientific notation, which is preferred. Those are the same number, and we're going to get to writing in scientific notation. Now for the units. We're multiplying centimeters by centimeters, so it should be centimeters squared. Both of those answers are correct. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on. But if you need more practice with that, there's a Mastering Chemistry homework, has a few questions like this. And if you even just want to look at them and then be like, hey, Dr. Hefner, I need help. These are the questions that I have in my homework. I'm not going to just do your homework questions for you, but I can give you a question that's similar so that you can get the concept and you can get it right on your homework. So we good on that? Okay. Let's move right along. So I have a practice problem here. You're not going to see a problem like this specifically, but I want to work through it with you because part of chemistry is solving word problems. You're going to need to read a paragraph of text, take out all the things that are important, put together a plan for how you're going to attack the problem, and then do it. So we're going to step through this together, and I'll ask for your input along the way, and we'll get the answer together. So let's say that you own two pieces of land, and they need to be surveyed for tax purposes. What that means is there's a person that's going to come out to the land, measure it, and everything else. They look at the maps, they know the property lines, blah, blah, blah. And the tax man wants their money. So they want to charge you as much as they can, obviously. The rate for property taxes in this particular area that you're in is 73 cents per square foot. So for every 1 foot every 1 foot by 1 foot plot that you have, you're paying 73 cents every year just because you own it. That doesn't make sense, I know. But you have to pay to own things, just like you have to pay property taxes on your car in this state. What will you have to pay in property tax for this year? And then there's a hint to treat the tax rate as an exact number, which comes for calculating sig figs. So there's the two plots of land. We've got a circle and we've got a rectangle. And I gave the different equations for figuring out the area. Now, you're not going to be accountable for knowing how to calculate area or anything like that. But I'm using this as an example of problem solving. And then we're going to talk about sig figs because we're going to have to do multiple operations before we get a final answer that we round. So the plan is we need to, one, calculate the total area. And two, we need to calculate the tax. Is everybody with me so far? That's the plan. We read it, we know what the question is, and we have our plan of attack. Are we good so far? Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next slide that still has this information on it. Just doesn't have the big old word blob. Okay. So we said for our plan, the first thing is to calculate the total area. If we're calculating the total area, what does that mean? It means that we're going to take the area of the circle and add it to the area of the rectangle. And that's going to give us our total area. I just stopped after the E, like, yep, that's the word. All right. My brain is getting tired, y'all. That little symbol is pi. You can approximate it as 3.14, or if you have a pi button on your calculator, you can use that. But what I want you to try to do is calculate the area of the circle, the area of the rectangle, and tell me what your total area is. So for the area of the circle, you're taking pi and you're multiplying that by the radius squared. The radius is 27.35. The area of the rectangle, you're taking the length, multiplying it by the height, or the width, excuse me. So calculate those two things, and in the chat, tell me what your total area is. If you approximate pi, it will be a little bit different from people who are using the pi button, but it'll still be in the right range to answer the question. So give that a shot. When you have an answer, let me know. And if it's like, me and my calculator aren't getting along, let me know that too. Because that's part of the exercise, is making you use your calculator, see how familiar with it you are. Okay. So yeah, we're getting in that right ballpark. And don't worry about significant figures at this point. We are not at the end of the question, so we're not rounding anything. But it looks like we're all in the same ballpark. So your total area, if you're not rounding or anything, should be something like that. And of course, we need units. Units are feet squared. So don't forget that as you're going along. But this is only the first part of the question. If you're struggling with your calculator, that's okay. Please let me know. If you understand how we got to, what it is, and you just couldn't get it into your calculator, that's fine. But make sure that you understand how we got to this number of 2,600 some odd feet squared. So does everybody understand? I see a hand raised. Go for it. Did you add them together? Okay. Did you get a number that was bigger or smaller? Okay. So make sure that, one, you did 27.35 squared, not just 27.35, because that will definitely make a difference. Yeah, I can go over the total area. So I'm just going to use the approximation of 3.14. So what you should be putting into your calculator is 3.14 times 27.35. There's usually a caret button and then a 2, and that will give you squared. You can just do that and then do the area for the rectangle, or you can put it all together in one. So you could put parentheses around it if you so choose, but you don't have to. Then you're taking your length, 18.257, and multiplying that by the width of 15.2. The other way that you can do the area for the circle is this. It's the same thing. How much smaller is it? Oh, that's pretty much the same thing. So it's just a matter of the using pi versus 3.14. So you're fine. That's what you should get if you just use 3.14. All right. And in the grand scheme of things for this problem, we're going to get ballpark the same answer. So the second part of this is taking that area to calculate your taxes. And we said that the rate is 73 cents per square foot, which is the same thing as saying feet squared. You're going to take that 73 cents and multiply it by your total area. And that should give you, forgot units, that should give you a dollar amount. And since we're dealing with dollars, we're only going to do 2 decimal places. But we'll talk about sig figs and how we would do it if it weren't dollars. So give that a try on your calculator. We can just do everybody doing the same thing, what I just wrote, the 0.73 times the 26.27.488. And let me know what you get. Yeah. So it should be something like that. So you're paying close to $2,000 for the privilege of owning a property. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with dollars and cents, we don't have 5 decimal places at the end. Okay. But if we were, we have to go back to the problem and figure out how many significant figures each of our measurements contain. The radius of the circle is a measurement, and it has 4 sig figs. The length and width of the rectangle are measurements. The length has 5 sig figs. The width has 3 sig figs. I told you to treat the tax rate like an exact number. So we don't care about that because there's no sig figs associated with it. That's the dollar amount that you have to pay. Period. The end. There's no wiggle room. It's not a measurement. It's what somebody said you have to pay. When you have to do addition and subtraction and multiplication or whatever combination of mathematical operations you have to do to solve a problem, you do all of your math. You do not round until the end. When you're ready to round, you look at the measurements in the problem. Figure out which measurement has the fewest significant figures. In this case, the width has 3 significant figures. So that's what we need to report our answer having. So if our answer in dollars and cents was $1,918.06, how could we report that with only 3 sig figs? Put your answer in the chat. How do we round it? So don't forget that 0 at the end. 192 is different from 1920. Okay? Yeah. So 1920 is what you would report, and that has three significant figures. The 0 at the end is a placeholder. So what I want you to take away from this isn't property taxes, but the process of how we went from reading the problem, pulling out the relevant information, I'll get you in just a second, creating a plan for how we're going to get to the answer that the question is asking for. Then we did it with our calculator. You go back and look at your measurements to see which one has the fewest significant figures, since we did both addition and multiplication. And then you report your answer using the fewest significant figures that you're provided. So we don't have time to do another one exactly like this, but we will also be, so this is problem solving, which we're going to be doing a lot of. In chapter 2, we're going to be doing a lot of problem solving, and I'll break down the method for problem solving again. So this was an introduction to it, but we're going to be continuously practicing our problem solving skills. Is that fair? Okay. I saw another hand raised. Was there a question, or are you good? Yeah. Okay. Good. Good, good, good. So we're going to move on from this problem, but we will always take the time to do problem solving skills because your methodology is more important than the answer. You can just put some stuff in the calculator and get an answer that may be right. But if you don't know how you did it, you can't replicate it. So we're going to teach a process. I teach you my process because that's what I use. And once you get comfortable with it, then you can personalize it for you. But the biggest thing that is the difference between passing and failing for most students, one, not devoting the time you need for the course, and two, not paying attention to detail and having a method for solving the problems. So if you put in the work, that's great, but you need to have a process and pay attention to every little detail. That's the difference between just passing and getting a B or an A. So let's move on to scientific notation. I think that we're coming up on, this is the last section I believe that we're going to be covering. So we talked in the lecture on YouTube, talked about exponents and kind of brought that with the power of 10, those two concepts together to make the baby of scientific notation, which is what everyone needs to know how to write numbers in. So I want you to take a second and try these first two. Write those numbers in scientific notation. Remember that you're looking for a number that looks something like this. So that's the format of scientific notation, where this front number is at least 1, less than 10. And the n is your exponent. Tells you the number of places that you've moved. and whether or not the number is bigger or smaller than 1. Okay. So I see that some of y'all got the first one. Yeah, so for the first one, you should get 5.4 times 10 to the 16. We can pause for a second and I'll show you how you get there, just so that everybody's on the same page. So there's an implied decimal point. There isn't one written, but it's implied that at the end of this number there's a decimal point. We have to first make that number that is at least 1 and less than 10. That's when we shuffle this decimal point all the way over and put it between the 5 and the 4. So that's where we get the 5.4 from. Then we have to count all of the places that we shifted that decimal point. I like to use check marks or a little dot or something as I count. So I just check it off as I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And now I'm at the point where I put my decimal place. So that's how you get that. You get the 16. The reason that it's a positive 16 is because it's a number that is bigger than 1. In the second case, we have a number that's smaller than 1. So we're still going to do the same process. And I see a lot of people have gotten this one too. You take that decimal point. We're going to move it to make that first number, plop it between the 1 and the 9. That's our number that's between 1 and 10. At least 1, less than 10. Then we need to figure out our exponent. We count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now we're at our decimal point. That's a 14. But this number is much, much smaller than 1. So that means we have to put a negative sign to show that. So it looks like a lot of you got that, both of those answers, so we're good there. If you're not good there, let me know. If you're good, thumbs up. If you're not good, help, because we have time. We got a couple of thumbs up, and a lot of people got the answers right. So unless I get stopped, we're going to move on to the second part. And I want you to write the following numbers as ordinary numbers. So you have the scientific notation. You need to write out the regular number. So go ahead and do those, and then I'll put the answers up. It looks like we're getting the first one. I'll just show you how I do it. So we're starting with 3.87, and we need to move the decimal point to the right to make a number that is bigger than 1, okay? We have a number that's bigger than 1, so we're moving it to the right. There's 1 decimal place, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I fill in the zeros. And that's how I get my answer. You do the same thing for the other one. Yep. So this is a negative number. It's a bunch of zeros in front. So I take that 216. There's the decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.78. My decimal point is here. I fill in the zeros. And there you go. So that's going back and forth with scientific notation. It looks like everybody's getting it. Everybody who's participating in the chat is getting it. So we'll leave it at that. Are there any questions about anything that we covered in this portion? Scientific notation, significant figures, difference between measurements and exact numbers, any of those things. Any pressing questions on your heart? Okay. So the last thing I have up is reminders, and I will do that. Your Mastering Chemistry assignments and the chapter check-in are due Sunday, August 30th, before midnight, Eastern Standard Time. With Mastering Chemistry, there's the Introduction to Mastering Chemistry, which will help you learn how to put your answers into the computer so that it's marked right. So you'll learn the system if you've never done a mastering class. And even if you've done one, doing the units and things like that for chemistry might be a little bit different than what you're doing for math. So make sure that you do that. It shouldn't take you long, and it'll help you in doing the homework. Yes, I create the chapter check-ins. So the Mastering Chemistry, I do not create those, but I do go in and look at the questions and tailor them and kind of take things out or add things in as I see fit, to make sure that you're not being tested on something that we haven't covered or something that I'm not going to have you be responsible for. The chapter check-in is posted on Blackboard already in the Prerequisite Science Skills folder. So to submit, you're going to click on that link. If you just want to look at the assignment, print it out or something like that, then you click on the file name. And the check-in is due on the same day as Mastering Chemistry. Tomorrow, the Chapter 2 lecture video will be available, along with the Chapter 2 check-in, and the Mastering Chemistry Chapter 2 homework will also be available. So if you watch the lecture and you want to work ahead, you can this week. I'd recommend waiting for the quiz, and I actually don't have the quiz available for Chapter 2 until after, okay? The chapter check-in. For Chapter 2, it will be available, yes, but the chapter, this one that we just covered, is already on Blackboard. So it's in that folder. And I see a hand raised. What's your question? Yes. Yes. So everything associated with everything associated with the prerequisite science skills is due on Sunday. So the way it works, go ahead. Say that again. For the chapter check-in, yeah. So you just have to do those questions for the check-in and submit it via Blackboard. The Mastering Chemistry, you have to click on the link and then do the assignment available for prerequisite science skills. There's more, so you don't have to complete the additional practice in the prerequisite science skills. That's just for your own, if you want to do some more practice, if you want to come to office hours or set an appointment with me, then you can do that. That's purely for, or if you're studying for the test, then you can use those. Yes, yes. So that's not an assignment. That's just there for your reference if you want to do more problems to practice. But I am not grading it. I do not want it. Don't email it to me. Do not want it. But if you have questions, we can go over it. So with Blackboard, as soon as I grade an assignment, it's available. So I'm going to be looking to see how many people have already graded or have already submitted the first assignment, and then I'm going to post. I'm going to start grading already. So if you've submitted it, you might see a grade in the next couple of days for that assignment. You'll also see feedback. So if you got something wrong, I don't just give you a grade, but I tell you, oh, you needed to do this, or it's the wrong number of sig figs. When it comes to exams, some of the questions will be open-ended. So it'll probably be about a week in between when you take the exam and when you'll see a grade. Yes, since everything is on Blackboard for the most part, the only thing that doesn't self-update is mastering chemistry. So for that, um, let's see, midterms are due in October. I will post the grades not after every single assignment, but every couple of weeks I'm going to go in and update the mastering chemistry so that you know where you are. And if you're curious, you can send me an email. I may not be able to, or no, course messages. So you say an email. Just shoot me a message if you're curious or you're wondering. But you'll know how well you're doing based on how well you're doing with the homework and the quizzes on mastering chemistry too. Oh no, 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 no. No, that's terrible and that's trash. I hated it when people did that. Someone's asking for the last slide. I can run that back and leave it there for you. And it'll also be available literally after we close out this session. I'm going to check the video, make sure that the sound is good and everything else, upload it to YouTube and post the annotated notes to Blackboard. So don't worry about it. But I see another hand up. Yes, sir. Yeah, so it's the one that tells you the least information. So it's the one that has the least significant figures in it, has the fewest decimal places, that sort of thing. Um, if we're talking about like looking at a scale, the scale that tells you two significant figures or two decimal places is going to be more uncertain than one that gives you four decimal places. Any other questions about that? Okay, good. Any other questions for me about the syllabus, about the assignments that are due, anything like that? You can let me know. But this is all that I have for you. So I'm going to stop recording. And any other questions that are asked after this, if they're relevant to the class, I'll post it in an announcement. But you are free to log out and carry on about your day. We ended a few minutes early.